have questions for our Gahanna City School Board candidates, please raise your hand and we'll take the questions. Let's start with our opening statements. We have John Handler, Daphne Mooring, Earl Brown, Pickle Antonio. Did I get it right? Okay. Let's start with Earl Brown, Pickle Antonio.
We have another letter in there? Thank you, Jerry. So I know that we have completely switched gears now, and we're talking about the schools and not the city. But I want to thank the Franklin County Consortium of Good Government and the League of Women Voters for coordinating this event, and to all the volunteers who helped make this possible. And I want to thank all of you who are still with us. I know it's been a long night, but thank you for spending your evening with us. Events like this are really important, and they're more important now than ever. We've got news coming to us from a whole variety of outlets, so when we can have some opportunity where you get to hear directly from candidates and ask your questions, it's really important. My name is Earl. Oh, I'm already done in 15 seconds. I have been honored to serve as your school board president over the last 4 years. My husband Andy and I are the parents of 3 boys who are in the Gahanna schools. They're in the back there, Vincent, Max, and Alex. I'm done.
Thank you. Daphne Mooring.
Okay, so first off, as the re-election candidates, the current candidates, I want to share with you all, you've been through the Arctic, the cold temperatures in this room, and now we're going to get warm, so we're going to the Sahara, okay? Good evening, I am Daphne Mooring, and I am running because I believe that a quality education is a fundamental right of our citizens, and it leads to a higher quality of life for the individual and to a stronger community. I believe that my 28 years career in the financial industry, along with excellent management training and experience, give me a set of tools to opt in the district. Gahanna really is my home, and it became my home because I married Boyd Mooring, who grew up in Gahanna and graduated from Gahanna-Lincoln, as did our 2 daughters who were born and raised here in Gahanna. I am physically responsible, including chairing the district finance committee the past 4 years. I'm student-focused, community-minded, and results-driven. Thank you.
Thank you, John Handler.
My name is John Handler, and I'm running for the Board of Education. And I first want to say how amazing it is to see everyone out here. This has been a few years in the making for me, and it's a great lesson for everyone that if you do want to do something, you certainly go for it. And here I am on the stage today with the 2 current board candidates, and it's just an amazing thing to do. My wife and I, Julie, and my 2 daughters, Charlie, who is in 4th grade at High Point Elementary, and my youngest daughter, Ryan, who has 1 year to go until kindergarten at High Point, so they will share the building together at least once, which will be fun. But I chose to run for this because volunteering in these schools and watching what the schools have done so far for my daughter is nothing short of amazing. I am a small business owner in Columbus. I own a bail bonds company. I want to, similar to what Ray said, I do see some familiar faces in the crowd. If you know me, that's probably a bad thing, so I'm not going to point any of you out. Not saying that it wasn't any of you, but it is nice to see so many familiar faces. But again, I'm very proud of the work that I've done with my small business. My wife is a local business owner. She's a social worker, so
You're out of time.
Thanks for having me here.
First question, we'll start with Earl. Why do the taxpayers have to fund preschool? Isn't preschool the job of a child's parents?
So we are obligated to serve students who have additional needs. We have a fantastic special education director in our district who reviewed the financials and made a decision that it was more fiscally prudent for us to be serving those students here in the district rather than sending them out for services. And along with those students that we serve, we also offer a peer modeling program, and actually those students pay tuition to attend our preschool. So.
Okay, thank you. Daphne?
So, as Burrow said, I guess I don't need glasses for this. It's state mandate, it's state legislature that requires us to identify, starting at age 3, children that need assistance in their educational development. So we are charged with that. It's not a choice. I do love, as Burrow shared, how we offer a peer model program, and it is a fantastic approach to preschool education. So.
Okay, thank you. John?
My wife, Julie, and I moved here. We hadn't had our first yet, but when we did not actually use the preschool services at the time in 2009 here in Gahanna. However, the more we've gotten to know people here locally and the more we've seen, especially here on the first floor, the services they do provide, I think it's imperative for all young families to have that service. I understand some of it is paid for, but it's also a great segue into the great elementary schools that I have, rather than coming from maybe another school in another district. So I do think it's important, and I'm glad that we actually do offer it. So,
Thank you. Next question to Daphne first. Columbus City Schools has restorative practices for discipline. What does Gahanna Schools use? Do you think restorative practices is a good framework?
So, I wish I could understand that. We use a prevention and response to intervention program for our discipline, and it is studied actually by other districts, so not confident that I can speak to Columbus City's way of approaching that, but I am confident that the program that Gahanna Jefferson is using is making impact to students.
Thank you. Burl?
Sure. So I think this year is the first year that across all of our elementary buildings, we are using a program called Conscious Discipline. All of our building principals and teachers spent some time studying. I think there was a book study that they did together, and now that is something that we are doing across the board in our elementary buildings. It gives students an opportunity to do things like have morning meetings where they talk about what may have gone on in their home before they came to school. That is not directly a restorative justice program. I think once we get up into our high school levels and our middle school levels, while we may not formally call what we do a restorative justice program, a lot of our building principals and administrators are using the restorative justice concepts when they are working through solutions with our students.
Thank you, John Handler.
I am not currently on the board, so I don't know too much in detail, but if I were elected to the board, I think one of the first things I want to do is actually talk to the teachers themselves to see exactly what they're dealing with. Have we sat down and asked those questions? Talking to an elementary school student who might get in trouble, dealing with that student from a teacher's perspective, they might feel handcuffed in dealing with that child. So I can't speak directly to, well, I certainly can't speak for Columbus schools, but in Gahanna, that is something that I would want to bring to the table, and I'm not sure if that has been done, so correct me if I'm wrong. But again, I'd like to see exactly what the teachers need for that, because I am not sure the ones that I've spoke to personally are actually getting that or feel comfortable enough to say it is working for them.
Thank you. Next question to you first, John. With the horrible recent shooting in Dayton and the seemingly increasing frequency of mass shootings in schools, what steps would you like to try and prevent such a tragedy from coming to Gahanna?
Thanks for the question. This is actually a really good question and very important to me, especially in my line of work. This is something that I see, unfortunately, too many times. We have a school resource officer program here in Gahanna. Not every school in Central Ohio has that. I certainly feel comfortable with the police officers that are positioned at the high school. One of the concerns that I have is we have a third roaming officer around the district. I am not sure I am comfortable with the fact that if something, God forbid, were to happen, some of the buildings themselves seem to be in a sitting duck situation where if someone does want to enter, they certainly can. And we have to be real with this. It can happen to anybody. We've all seen it on TV. I have at least one kid in the schools now, and I'll have another. So one of the things that I want to try and do is find a way to add more SRO officers that could potentially get to those buildings faster than they can now, because they are limited as it is currently with 3 or 4 officers.
Thank you. Daphne.
So there were buildings that did not have an office portal entrance into the school. You could go into a hall. And those are part of our phase 1 corrections to be made, so that anybody entering the building during school hours would need to go through an office before they can proceed into other parts of the building. That's very important. The SROs do a terrific job. They do roam to the middle schools and elementaries as needed. I will tell you what I'm most proud of as our district. We are a very caring district. And so our kids and our teachers are phenomenal in building relationships with our students. And I have personally been involved when a student told a parent that there was a child that needed assistance, called me, we got the superintendent, the SRO, and that is actually your best form of defense, is when everybody is looking out for each other. And I applaud our teachers and students.
Earl.
Thank you. So I do just want to correct one thing. Our teachers have been fully involved in the conscious discipline program and all of our programs that we use related to discipline and restorative justice and those types of things. But to answer the question, when actually not the most recent incident, but when one of the recent shooting incidents happened, I was incredibly thankful to see our superintendent, our city, our chief of police come together. We hosted a safety town hall at Middle School West. That safety town hall meeting was videotaped. It's available for anyone to see. As a result of that meeting and all of your questions, we initiated a study to look at what our current practices were and to make determinations about where we could make improvements. We have implemented a number of the recommendations that came out of that study, including, as Daphne mentioned, changing the front entryways to all of our buildings. We have also put in place a technology system that I can't adequately describe that verifies identities of people before they're able to come into our building. I am incredibly grateful for the police force that we have here and the relationship they have with our district.
Out of time here, but I will start with you on this next question. Simple question, maybe not so simple an answer. How do we get drugs out of our schools?
That is a simple question without a simple answer. One of the things that I didn't mention in my answer to the last question, but I think is relevant to the last question and to the question of drugs, is that we have also made a commitment in this district to students and families' mental health. We have added a full-time mental health provider in all of our elementary buildings. And while the drug problem doesn't necessarily, I hope, I mean, I've got my own elementary kid, doesn't necessarily begin in elementary school, but some of the things that can lead to a drug problem do honestly start that young. So I am very proud that as a district, we have seen the need to invest in mental health and put those dollars where they need to be in investing in our kids and our families.
Thank you. Daphne?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How do we get drugs out of our schools?
Oh, that is, it would be my greatest achievement if I could help with that. Drugs are just so pervasive, and assisting our police force and educating students about how the negative impact, the vaping is just a very sad situation for me as well. And then also reinforcing their value to the community and to themselves so that they don't feel the need to go to drugs. I think we can work it both ways, right? And so as a parent and as a school board member, I think we have to address both sides of that equation.
Great, John.
This is an extremely tough topic. I mean, if you look at the city of Columbus and what we're dealing with now, with my background and my wife's background as a social worker, this is something that we literally deal with on a daily basis. This is probably one of the reasons why I want to step up and be a leader in the schools. It's probably next to impossible to sit up here and try and promise that we can get rid of all the drugs in the schools, and I do want to applaud what we have done, what they have done so far, in adding an extra psychologist or social worker to the schools, each elementary school, to help the kids. Because at the end of the day, I think we're asking the right questions where this is starting at home. These kids are learning from home, they're learning from potentially their parents or their sisters or brothers or even friends. So Gahanna certainly has the resources now to try to at least prevent it. I know other school districts around Central Ohio are trying to prevent vaping with certain detectors that I think Hilliard Schools might have started something. So I know there's ideas out there, and I would love to actually look into those ideas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, my back was turned on to stop. We're going to move to closing statements here, and we'll start with Daphne.
Yeah. Just settling in. Okay. Our district has so much to offer our students, and I will continue to work and to keep and improve those offerings. We have a fiduciary responsibility to manage the finances to most efficiently invest our dollars. I take that responsibility very seriously. Students are the focus of every decision that the board makes. We made the hard decision to spend precious dollars to return elementary school counselors to each building to complement those at the middle and high school. I believe that attention to social and mental health, along with promoting a caring and safe environment, are the foundations to a robust safety program. During my last term, the board required long-term planning for technology, curriculum, and capital maintenance programs, which had not been in place. We rebooted the master facility plan and passed our levy with a resounding show of support, a testament to the value that you, our community, places on schools. I'd love your vote to continue working for 4 years.
Earl.
I'm going to stick to my notes this time. I'm running for re-election because while I believe I have fulfilled election promises to ensure that the board was more student-focused, more transparent, more engaged with the community, more fiscally responsible, forward-planning, and professional, I believe that I still have valuable experience to contribute. Several key accomplishments since Daphne's and my election in 2015 include completing the master facility plan with community input and passing a levy to begin implementing that plan. Hiring a superintendent who puts students first, providing all of our students with Chromebooks or other new technology, placing a mental health specialist in each elementary building, establishing 3 new committees for public dialogue, beginning to videotape board meetings and audio tape committee meetings, and developing a set of fiscal beliefs to guide budget decisions. I am passionate about education and ensuring that our children receive a high-quality education, and I ask you for your vote this November. Thank you.
John Handler.
So I am extremely lucky, everyone in this room, to understand. I have been volunteering in our wonderful schools for the past 2 years. I was luckily asked to run the 2018 bond levy issue that we passed in flying colors, celebrating in this room right here. And I remember leaving that night saying to myself, well, what's next for me? Because frankly, it was it. I could continue to volunteer at the schools, but I desperately wanted to move to the next position, which naturally for me is school board, because I want to see the next 4 years through after what we passed for the previous 4 years. Spending time in our elementary schools, high school, my daughter's school, High Point, I get a chance, luckily, to interact with the students and teachers all the time, where these kids see me around town and refer to me as Mr. John. Nothing more can put a smile on your face than that. So I ask for your vote November 5th. I as well, Gahanna schools mean the world to me. I wouldn't spend every day at these schools if it didn't. I do still have a day job, so I ask for your vote November 5th, and I again thank you to both organizations that had us hosted tonight.
John Handler, Daphne Mooring, Burl Brown, Quickland, Antonio.